What is going on, Jerome's? Happy Friday. Happy New Year's. Coming up, all that stuff. The Vikings are going into Green Bay, a.k.a. Appleton adjacent. They can burn Utica to the ground. Vikings can essentially end the Packers' playoff hopes, and there'll be just the very sad violin to Packer fans as well as the national media jabroni haircuts. So let's get into it. We got 10 keys for the Minnesota Vikings to get a win on Sunday. First up, number one, Jefferson getting 2K on Sunday. I said what I said, where Jefferson needs 209 yards, the best Megatron's 2012 record of 1,964 yards. He needs 244 to get to 2K, and maybe he'll get it. Maybe he'll get it. Where Jefferson week one had 9 catches for $184, 2 touchdowns against the Greasy, Grimy Green Bay Packers. Jar Alexander, allegedly the Pro Bowler, he was complaining, is like, oh, I could have shadowed JJ. Bring it. Absolutely bring it. And yeah, the Joe Barry defense has improved. It was like, oh, but they picked off 2 or 3 times. Tua was concussed. Tua was not in the right frame of mind, and he was just throwing arm punts out there. So whatever. Jar Alexander wants some, he going to get some. And Jefferson, this is a big-time stage. Late window CBS, Nance and Tony Romo, whatever. All eyes are going to be upon him because no one's watching the Bears game week 18. And Jefferson, he said all the right things. Like, hey, we want a Super Bowl. We don't want the record, but he has a chance to go off. He has a chance to help the Vikings get a win here, and that would greatly help the Vikings' chances to maintain the 2 seed, also eliminating the Packers was beautiful, and plus keep the 1 seed hopes alive. So I think number 18 is just going to go hard in the paint on Sunday. Next up, number 2, light up Bird Bones Aaron Rodgers, the octogenarian, alleged back-to-back MVP. Rodgers has been sacked 29 times this year. He is not the same quarterback that he once was, allegedly. Quarterback rating 65.2 when pressured, but again, allegedly. He's pretty solid against the blitz. He's got 86.5 PFF grade when a defense brings more than 4. And the Vikings, they got to get home with 4. Like, we love how they've been aggressive the last couple weeks, but it's sort of live by the sword, die by the sword situation where the Vikings, if they can get a push with 4, they can drop coverage. That's when Rodgers has been extremely inefficient this season. And Daniil, 3.5 sacks the last 2 games, is really starting to light up. He loves playing the Packers, loves playing Rodgers. And week 1, the Vikings got after that ass. 20 pressures and 4 sacks. So they need a repeat. And Rodgers, 11 interceptions this year. So he is giving away now. So the Vikings need to attack that ass. We after that ass, Jimmy. That's right. Next up, number 3. Za'darius Revenge Game 2.0. Speaking of rushing the passer, Za'darius back in Green Bay. First time since becoming a former Packer, and he can still bring it. He's got 4 pressures and a sack week 1. 78 pressures, leads the team. But it's been a little bit of a dry spell, even though, yes, there's a bit of puck luck when it comes to sacks. He's still getting pressures, but his only has a sack and a half in the last 8 games since going off for 3 against Arizona. So I think 55 has a chance to show up and show us, hey, you guys are literally still paying me. So I'm going to bring the thunder, man. Next up, number 4. Kirk continuing to prove the haters and the losers wrong. Kirk Cousins' last 5 games, completing 70% of his passes, 13 touchdowns, which is the most in the NFL, only 3 interceptions. He's averaging 331 yards a game, which, again, is the most in the league, 106.7 quarterback rating, 3rd in the NFL, and I mean, Kirk is just doing it. And yes, the Packers defense has improved, but they can still get got. They're still missing some key guys. And Kirk on the road, I think, has a beautiful chance to really shake off some of the narratives like, oh, Kirk can't win a big game. Baloney. Kirk can't win in, well, it's not prime time, but it's one of the more major showcase slots. So he can certainly do that. And Kirk Cousins, 8. Ocho, 4th quarter overtime come from behind game-winning drives this season. Now, hopefully he doesn't need one this game because hopefully the Vikings just absolutely get up on the Packers early and stay up on them. So I don't know, but I think Kirk has a chance to completely show how clutch he's been this year. It would be a perfect cap to the regular season. And then week 18. Yeah, well, whatever. But also imagine the Kirko Chains outfit if and when the Vikings get a win, move to 13-3, and end the Packers season. Woo! That's right, man. Next up, number 5. Slow down Jones and Dillon. So Aaron Jones, the best Aaron on the Packers offense right now. They're a running team. Imagine paying your quarterback $50 million and becoming a running team. They combined for 1,658 yards rushing, 8 touchdowns, also have 579 yards receiving, and Aaron Jones has 5 receiving touchdowns. So it's going to be a big-time game. The Vikings defensive line has shored up a little bit against the run. You still have Kendricks and Hicks, and they need to unleash Brian Asamoah. So if you can get them in third and long situations, as weird as it sounds, you can get some heat on Aaron Rodgers. That's going to be the blueprint for the Vikings. But if Jones and Dillon are just chewing up first downs and chewing up the clock, that's the game that Green Bay wants to play right now. Can't have that. Next up, number 6. Mark Allen Lazard. So Christian Watson has all the hype, although he may not play because he missed 2 practices in a row with that hip injury. But Allen Lazard is the Packers wide receiver 1 since they got rid of Devontae Adams. But former Cyclone, 51 catches, 688 yards, receiving 5 touchdowns on 88 targets. And Rodgers loves going to him in a high leverage situation. 38 first downs this year. He lines up all over the place, the X, the Z, the slot. So it is going to take a village, whether it's Patrick Peterson, whether it's Duke Shelley, whether it's Cameron Dantzler if he gets on the field, whether it's Sean Sullivan, another revenge game in the slot. They got to figure out where number 13 is and take him away. Next up, number 7, offensive line brings it. So the offensive line, even though this is the best personnel that Kirk has had in front of him in the last 5 years, it's been a little bit rough as of late. 14 sacks in the last 3 games, sacked a career high 44 times. Also still have 2 games remaining. 125 hits taken this season, and it's been rough. It has been. You got to protect him. Austin Schlutman likely going to be starting for the 4th game in a row. Him against Kenny Clark, that's going to be a big matchup to watch. And the Packers, even without Rashawn Gary, they can still get some heat. Preston Smith and company getting after it. 27 pressures, 8 sacks over the last 2 games. So the offensive line needs to move some people in the run game. Also, they got to protect Kirk Cousins if the Vikings want to get a win in Lambeau. Next up, number 8. Speaking of the run game, let Dalvin cook. So 20 carries for 90 yards week 1 against the Packers. Last year, sort of had a forgettable game against Green Bay. It is what it is. But 2 years ago, 226 total yards and 4 touchdowns. That's the sort of effort that number 4 needs to bring on Sunday. On the offensive line, getting in there, running the ball, moving the football up and down the field, getting points, moving the chains, and shutting this crowd the hell up. That's what needs to happen. And the Packers defense, like we said, has improved throughout the season, but they're still near the bottom in terms of rushing defense. 2,166 yards allowed this year, 16 rushing touchdowns, as well as 5 yards per carry. I think that number 4 could have himself a day on Sunday. Next up, key number 9, control special teams. So, I mean, this is a nice matchup between 2 great special teams minds. You got Matt Daniels, the Vikings, future head coach, as well as Rich Bisaccia, former Raiders interim head coach, one of the best special teams coordinators in the league. But big news for the Vikings. So their returner, Keyshawn Nixon, may be out with a groin injury. He's missed 2 practices in a row. He's been a huge catalyst for their special teams as of late. And so the Vikings, they need to limit returns. They need to cover Ryan Wright's booms. Greg Joseph needs to continue to swing the leg. And I think that Jalen Reagor, King Kene, and Nwangu bust a big one time. I mean, especially King Kene. Can we get 2? Can we get 2 kick returns on the season just like we did last year? Ooh, love to see it. Lastly, key number 10 for the Vikings to get a win on Sunday. Win the turnover battle. So, like we mentioned, Rodgers picked 11 times this season, which is tied for his most since he became a full-time starter in 2008, and he's also fumbled 8 times. So number 12 is being very careless with the football. He will serve up a meatball. And the defense is not a shutdown defense, but they're a big play when you need it defense. They're a bend but don't break defense, sometimes a little break. But this game could change on one big defensive play, an interception, a forced fumble, a whatever, a strip sack. Yes. And also, like we said, the perfect setup for the revenge game. Za'darius Smith, strip sack. Sean Don scoops it up and scores because the referees don't screw him this time, unlike they did the 2 against the Colts. So I think it's going to be beautiful, man. I think the defense, even though much maligned, I think that they will bring the heat on Sunday against Aaron Rodgers. Final score prediction. I know that Vegas, putting the Vikings as 3.5-point dogs. I know that all the prognosticators are picking the Packers. It's like, no one wants to face the Packers in the playoffs. They're going to earn the 7th seed. Baloney. Absolutely bring it. But the Vikings can end everything, all this nonsense right here, right now, on Sunday in Lambeau. I think that Dalvin has a nice running game. I think that he has 150 total yards of scrimmage. I think Jefferson goes off. Maybe he doesn't get that full 244, but I think 10 catches for $150 and a touchdown is in his wheelhouse. Also, TJ Hawkinson have himself a follow-up game to his breakout against the Giants. So Kirk continues to prove the haters and the losers wrong. The defense gets a couple big plays. Za'Darius Smith and Daniil Hunter meet at the quarterback multiple times. So give me Vikings 34, Packers 24. Vikings move to 13-3. nix the Packers season, and it's just beautiful, man. Just beautiful. And also, I'm calling it. The Saints go marching into Philly. They beat the Eagles, even if Jalen Hurts plays. And then all of a sudden, ooh, Vikings beat the Bears, and all of a sudden the Giants upset the Eagles. 1 seed, baby. 1 seed. Let's go. Let's go. But your thoughts are thoughts. 10 keys to Vikings victory. Let us know your thoughts. What are your keys? Let us know in the comment section below. Subscribe for daily Vikings takes. Want to support the work? Put a little something in the Venmo. But till next time, Skol, production value.